Well, the one thing I did want to talk to you about was the energy stuff. I know this is obviously in the news big time, but I'm just trying to imagine what the possible exit ramps are for what's happening with Europe. One of the guys in our Telegram group today is from Sweden, said he is in part of a plan where he locks in his annual electricity rate and that it's fixed for the year. And so he just got his renewal notice. If he's going to lock it in, it's at 11 times his current rate.
11 times.
11 times.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then the other thing is he can just, just do it's market rate. So right now that market rate is lower. It's like, I think he said a third of the locked in rate. So he's going to obviously do that, but it could easily be up to 20 times. It's hard to know. So I think that people haven't really thought this through. Like if electricity rates are 10x, if the cost of energy is 10x, well, our entire society, every part of it has built around low energy costs. And if we can't get back to that in some range of it, it may be double what it used to be, but like get back to it in some range, then everything needs to be reordered. Like nothing can continue because all the things that we spend our money on right now has to completely be reprioritized around basic, the service economy is gone, obviously, right? And so much more because even in the industrial, nothing works. Like you can't make cars, you can't, nothing, it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
it has everything reordered, like everything from the before times is completely gone. Nothing makes it.
It's going to be a great reset. And so what's the way around this? Okay. Well, as far as the Europeans, these stupid Europeans are concerned, I mean, uh, it all seems to be centering around this war between two shithole countries, Russia and the Ukraine. And incidentally, I still refer to it as the Ukraine, not Ukraine. That's something that's changed. That's Ukraine is the Ukraine has changed its name to from the Ukraine to Ukraine. Uh, I stick with the traditional name for it. But anyway, so okay, they're having a pointless border war type of thing that's gone on there for the last 1,000 years, and we're involved. So how's this going to end? Because the Russians are not going to send gas west while the West is their enemy, and so it's almost like there's no way out of it. It's a rock has met a hard place.
Right.
So Europe is not going to get energy. And it's going to take them a decade. Well, it should take them only 3 or 4 years, but it won't. It'll take them a decade to build nuclear power plants, and they have to build a lot of them. And that's not going to happen.
Well, they have to completely change a lot of their infrastructure that would even support electricity from that versus, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, because it's it's all based. Transportation is all based on on gasoline and diesel. So that's all got to be changed. I mean, it's going to be eliminated, and then infrastructures. This is a changes can and will happen, but this is a massive change way too quickly because it's being forced.
right. If the dramatic change, like 10 times that cost, if that is allowed to persist more than a few months, I think it's like the equivalent of dropping a neutron bomb in Europe, right? It just like everything it's there, but society is totally fundamentally differently and will not work. Remember, right?
Yeah,
If they want to kill people,
looks like Yuval Noah Harari is going to get his wish, and a lot of useless mouths are going to bite the dust. But then again, maybe not, because people are amazingly good at surviving. I mean, one way or another.
Right. But the interesting thing about this problem is that it literally could be completely solved in one day.
One day.
We have all these problems, all these difficult things, intractable problems, impossible to solve. This one solution is actually something that could be done in one day. So since that is the case, I wonder if they're playing chicken and eventually they're going to come up with some excuse as to why they can say, okay, sanctions are off. and let the gas flow. They didn't even say they had to eliminate the war. They just have to stop the sanctions and gas flows.
Does that seem likely to happen? I don't think the Russians can give up at this point. It just doesn't seem like that's possible for them to give up and let the forces of evil, which is really what Western Europe has turned into, impinge upon their space. It's literally a rock and a hard place. I don't see where it can go. Yeah, and of course, the Europeans could start drilling for gas and get enthusiastic about offshore petroleum resources and fracking. They could do all these things. Yeah, that could all happen. But it all boils down to the state. I mean, this is all the state with its regulations and its taxes and the distortions it creates in the economy and supporting a class of, as Harari likes to say, useless mouths. He'd like to decide who are the useless mouths,
Yeah.
but they really exist. They're basically welfare recipients. So it's not like I'm totally unsympathetic to the basic truth of what he's saying. It's just that he wants to make it happen. He wants to immanentize the eschaton, as it were.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the way out of this. The market will provide a way out of it if you
Well,
get rid of the state. But if you
right.
got rid of the state,
There's no problem anyway.
yeah, because what are all these parasites that are living off of it going to do as things readjust? It's going to be chaos.
Yeah. Because all of the other stuff we've been dealing with the last couple of years, COVID, for instance, it's wrong, and it's inconvenient, all the lockdowns, all that stuff, like cause all kinds of damage, obviously. But it's so spread out, so you can muddle it, I guess. Like you can muddle what the real problem is, the blame is, it won't be as clear. Like I mean, people will die. People are going to die. This is a conspiracy hypothesis here, is that maybe if this is a continuation of the same thing that was fundamentally happening with COVID, which was that the small businesses were being wiped out and, personal balance sheets were being destroyed. Like that definitely happened. Like lots of decentralized wealth was wiped away in that. And this does that in a much faster way, because you have these stories of this bakery on their, 10x their utility bill, they have to close. Like they're out of business. They barely made it through COVID. Now they're out. And so my thought, and this is actually the most optimistic scenario I've come up with, is that maybe they're just trying to continue to destroy more independence, small businesses and people who still have some capital, make them all more dependent on the state. And then somehow they only need this for a few more months. And then they can all of a sudden come up with some solution, come save the day, solve the gas problem, gas flows, and they've materially weakened the citizenry, empowered the state, even made themselves heroes in the process. But they didn't starve everyone to death. People didn't freeze to death by the millions.
What was this news item that I saw that the German government has announced that it's going to designate units of the army to patrol the streets of cities so there won't be riots come October when things start getting seriously cold.
Yep.
That's
That's
a big
real.
deal. And number two, that they're proposing, or have they already mandated, that people that don't have proof of vaccination have to wear masks again, pretty
Yep.
much like wearing the yellow armband if you were Jew 70 years ago.
Exactly right. Yep. They announced maybe a month ago, maybe longer, that all the new COVID restrictions were coming back in the fall to protect against fall variants, because it's now a seasonal disease. So they announced that. And then they announced that there were also going to be troops, military personnel on the streets in order to make sure that there weren't any further issues. Yeah.
My God. I mean, Germany it's developed a lot of bad habits over the last 100 years. Let's admit it.
Yeah. But we have friends that are in Germany. Like, why are you there? I don't understand why they haven't left. I really don't understand. And there are other places they could go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I was a a German, or for that matter, any European, I would sell everything while it's possible to do that and transfer the funds while it's possible to do that. And where would I go? Well, I could pick a number of other places that would be better than Europe, but Europe just doesn't look good for the foreseeable future.
No, and it hasn't looked good. They handled the COVID stuff really badly. Then you have a war in Ukraine that could easily escalate to something cataclysmic, could certainly go that direction. So that's been out there for a while. And then now you have these energy prices, which this is basically something cataclysmic. I mean, everybody will be destroyed. I mean, imagine the average household, $200 a month is what their utility bill is. It goes to $2,000 a month. Like, you're gone. It's done.
And announcements that are coming out of the governments are, well, we will print up money to subsidize it. We will price control utilities. We'll price control them while we print up money. And even people who are intelligent, rather rabid, like Russell Brand, who's obviously got a good sense of humor. He's a comedian and has some libertarian instincts, no question about that too. I listened to a rant that he had the other day where he's saying, yes, these evil energy companies should have their excess profits taxed. Well, wait a minute. Does anybody think energy companies are the ones that actually know how to produce more energy, and you're taking away the capital that they need to produce more energy?
Right.
So you're perpetuating the problem.
Right. Exactly. I mean, so the policies are all bad all around.
No, it's just perversely stupid. It's actually as if the world, especially the elite, are unleashing the four horsemen of the apocalypse,
Yep.
which are famine. Yeah, I can see where famine is coming. War, yeah, very definitely, that's there. Pestilence, yeah, they're going to create that again. And the last one is generally often translated as conquest, but it's actually the state is what conquest is.
Oh,
And the state is your real enemy. I mean, the other things are kind of almost cosmic facts of nature, but the state is far, far bigger than it's ever been in the past. In any event, all four horsemen are saddling up and riding at this point.
all right.
Now, if you're a European, sell everything and get the hell off the continent. I know it's very pleasant and very nice in many ways, but if Europe doesn't turn into a petting zoo for the Chinese, it's going to be it's going to be subject to scores of millions of migrants from Africa and the Middle East in the years to come. And there's no way to stop that.
No, and so this week I've seen in our Telegram channel, people have been sharing some videos about these migrant fights that have been in London and also in Ireland. And first of all, it was just I've never been to Ireland, but my imagined view of Ireland is just totally wrong in these videos. What you see these African migrants essentially fighting each other with machetes. I mean, it's really strange. Yeah, seriously. And then you had, I think it was in London, but you had a bunch of Muslims who were traveling in very large groups who were basically trying to find and attack Hindus. It's not even the Brits' problem, really. You know what I mean? But they've inherited this high tension issue.
Yes, you bring in the Hindus from India and the Muslims from Pakistan, and they take their hatreds with them, even though they're in England. And of course, they both kind of hate the native Brits.
Yeah,
So it's like a three-way race war. Actually,
Yeah.
4 or 5 or 6-way race war.
At this point, I think that's true. The shocking thing of all for the last 3 years now has been that people have done, no one's done the right thing in any leadership or policy decision or anything, but they've done exactly the inverse of the right thing again and again and again. And that is impossible. Like the odds of that, it doesn't make any sense. The inverse is impossible.
The cherry on the cake here in the U.S. was Biden's
Yes.
incredibly insane rant of 10 days ago or whenever that was, where he purposefully, I mean, his handlers purposely put a blood red background. I mean,
But did you see
that's like a
Trump's
signal.
did you see Trump's response though to him? Did you
No,
see
what
what he
did
said?
Trump have to say about that?
Trump called Biden an enemy of the state.
Well, actually, since the state is everybody's enemy, quite frankly, uh,
But
but I was necessarily a bad thing. But maybe what Trump really meant to say is he's an enemy of civilization and an enemy of the idea of America. That would have been more accurate.
it would have been more accurate. Yep. But I know some people trust Trump. I don't trust Trump at all. I really don't. I don't trust him at all. And I think, and so Biden basically does something that feels to me like, as we've been talking about, trying to bait people into doing something bad, into making a terrible mistake, engaging in violence that gives them the reason to do all the stuff they really want to do, you know? And well, Trump's response to that is essentially kind of egging him on. I feel like egging on the MAGA people. He's like, yeah, well, you hear what these people do. Clearly, he's an enemy of the state. Almost like saying, you're justified in doing something about it. Like it's an escalation war. It seems to me that I don't trust any of them. I feel like people are getting set up. I think people are being set up by all this. And I think people should just stay away from large groups, definitely never, ever engage in any violence. Just go your own way, do your own thing. But I feel like Trump is not helping in this situation at all. Now, Biden did the worst part, but being set up as evil and Trump's being set up as good. They have these videos. It's like, here's Biden giving a speech in the same place that Trump did later that week. And Biden's was dark and angry. And then Trump's was like America and good stuff, like, apple pie, all the good stuff, really. But those visuals, I feel like they're designed on purpose. They're designed to say, actually, the good guys, these are the good guys, and those are the bad guys. And you got to do something about the bad guys.
Yeah, I'm still shocked when I think about the fact that Biden gave that speech at the very place where the Constitution and founding of the country in 1787 happened. I mean, why was it there? And then that red background with two Marines there next
Yep.
to him. This was really like one of his handlers saw V and decided to replicate, the
Yep. Chancellor Sutler.
yeah, exactly. It's it's really quite scary at this point. The best thing. So what should the average American do? Well, if you have enough capital, uh, and you should have enough capital, you should have been putting some aside and investing or speculating properly. Well, you should have a second crib where you can go to. You don't want to get caught in Russia in 1917 or France in 1789 or Germany in 1933 or Cambodia in
Mm.
1975 or China in 1949 and so many other things I can run down like that. I mean, if you want to get out of Dodge, you want to be like Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind.
Mm.
He could see that what was going on between the North and the South, and that all his friends in the South were just crazy chimpanzees that thought they could win this war. So what did he do? He left for England.
Yeah.
And to keep busy, he became a blockade runner. Well, I'd say that was a very intelligent way to spend that time. And nobody could accuse him of not having participated in the fight, quite frankly, for his homeland or whatever. I don't know. I'd rather not fight at all, quite frankly. But I think Rhett Butler would be a good model to emulate in the years to come.
Right. I think so too. The tension is growing. So we talked about what's happening in Europe. It's definitely coming to a head there. It's been a boiling frog thing now for years, but it's clearly getting worse and worse. And it's just becoming impossible to survive there if you're paying 10 times again utility costs. So
But there are no good guys in this thing because
that's right.
you talk to any European, practically any European, and they're all socialists or some variety of fascism defined or communist or some type of thing. So there are no real good guys. There are no libertarians to speak of in Europe at this point.
Right.
And they're all taking sides on this Russia Ukraine border war, which is really stupid. I mean, let these people fight it out. Who gives a damn who wins? I mean, quite frankly.
That's right.
But they're all chimping out. I don't see how this can end well. And of course, the question is watching the markets looking for fat ball speculations. But to keep it simple at this point, you should diversify geographically and politically outside the US if you possibly can, if you're in a position to. If you're not in a position to, then kind of shame on you at this late date. And otherwise, buy gold, buy some silver, and batten down the hatches, buy a few months worth of food, at least.
How close do you feel we are to a market meltdown?
40-year bull market created artificially by printing up money in Washington. So I think stocks are still very high, and I think earnings could actually collapse as businesses slow down, people stop buying stuff, even from McDonald's and Walmart and Microsoft, as everybody tightens their belts. So yeah, we could have a stock market collapse, and as the dollar loses value even more, and the dollar's been very strong against other currencies. Yes, that's true, but it's still losing value at 10 to 15% minimum per year against real goods. So the bond market could actually go into a full-scale collapse. People think they have a lot of assets in this over-financialized world, and it could turn out as those financial assets basically dry up and blow away.
Just gone. They disappear completely overnight.
Go on with the wind.
Yeah, I saw this chart. It's very interesting. It's basically showing the soaring value of intangible assets in the S&P 500. And so in 1975, intangible assets were only 17% of the value of the S&P 500. 2020, it's 90% of the value of the S&P 500 is intangible assets. Like that alone concerns me. You know what I mean? Because it's intellectual property basically is what they're valuing all these things. You often talk about, well, there's a Great Depression, the stuff will still be there. The factories will still be there. The cars will still be there. The oil rails will still be there. But the intellectual property, these intangible assets will not be there. They're all accounting tricks, it seems to be. Anyway.
True, because back in 1975, this country actually produced real stuff. There actually was an industrial base, and now it's all just digital. It's a moving paper fantasy at this point. It's all just kind of paper wealth. And if you go back another 20 or 30 or 50 years before that, everything was about real production, making actual stuff. You couldn't hope to become the equivalent of a billionaire by sitting in your mom's basement and creating an app which wastes people's time as they bend over their iPhone and look at cat videos all day.
A year ago, you and I were in Mexico. We were at a conference. We were having dinner with Robert Kiyosaki. And you had the intuition at that point about the markets. You said, I really feel like we're very close to the end. Like we could see the bottom fall out at any time. And I said, what do you think? When? And you said, anywhere between tomorrow morning and this time next year. That's what you said at the time. How do you feel about that now?
Well, I hope I'm wrong, actually, but I think we're getting pretty close to the edge, very close to the edge, especially with these elections coming up in November, when it just seems the kettle is going to boil over. The pressure cooker is going to explode before these elections, which both sides really feel they have to win.
Mhm.
Can't it be just a mellow, normal election? Gee, I hope it is, because I don't want to see fighting in the streets. But the possibility of a financial meltdown, economic collapse gets closer, political violence. It's like we're sleepwalking into disaster at this point.
If energy prices stay where they are, going back to what we started with, if they stay anywhere in the neighborhood of where they are, an economic reckoning, a financial reckoning is totally unavoidable at all. And I think it's unavoidable anyway, but a resorting of the entire global economy would have to take place if energy prices stay anywhere near where they are. Even if it's just in Europe, because Europe's a huge economy. It affects the entire world. Like you can't just wipe that off the map and think nothing bad happens.
Yeah, and it's going to be worldwide because you know China exports all kinds of junk, and if people tighten their belts, they're not going to be able to buy that junk, which means the Chinese stock market gets hurt, and Mrs. Wu is very unhappy, and her bank may fail. So things can get rough in the Orient, and things can get rough in Africa because Africa is still a net consumer of capital. And if the going gets tough, people aren't going to be, you know, sending stuff down there. And you could have mass starvation in Africa too.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's quite frankly everywhere. So the capital stops flowing into Africa, then the natives are going to get restless.
Mm.
I don't think you're supposed to say that anymore, but it's a fact.
You're right. You're not. That's a racist term. You're not supposed to use native.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
wrong with being a native? I mean, everything's racist today. It's
It
pointless.
is.
Meanwhile, these people are fomenting not only a race war, but they're fomenting a class war with the middle class being squeezed. A lot of them are driven into living in tents. So they get kicked out of their houses, joining the lower class and the upper class, the elite insulating themselves. Yeah, it'll be kind of a class war combined with a race war.
I'm glad I'm here in Uruguay.
Can't wait to join you as soon as possible. I will miss the oysters and the soft shell crabs in this part of the world, but they can't have everything.
No, hey, maybe we're just blowing aside proportion. Everything will be fine, and you'll be back there next summer to enjoy them.
Yeah, listen. We may be entirely too gloomy, frankly. I mean, and we can't discount the fact that magic may happen. Friendly aliens may at this very moment be looking at this globe, about to land on the roof of the White House with the magic technology that can cure all of our ills. So hey,
We got that.
that's wings for us.
Yeah. I hope for that, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's put our money there. That sounds like a winner.
All right, that's great, Doug. Thanks so much.
Okay, talk to you later, Matt.